And now they're starting to negotiate. What does that look like? And have you been at that table before?
Definitely been at that table a few times, and it can be kind of nerve-wracking, I think, especially when it's your baby. So if you're somebody that's building the business yourself, it's yours, it's your livelihood, it's your identity, and now you're negotiating away your job, if you will, in addition to wanting to get enough money to be able to make it worthwhile. That's, you can have a lot of times a big part of your net worth on the line. Definitely different than negotiating in terms of you've got other people's money and you've got this, responsibility to make sure that everybody gets their money back. So there's a different kind of pressure that's involved. I'd say for most people when they're selling their company though, and for me, it was, is this going to be enough for my family? And what am I going to do with my opportunity once this is done? And so those kind of things add this extra level of stress associated with it. But I was enthused. I was excited in the first several companies we sold.
As far as the negotiation on value and the increase of the valuation of the company, was there one conversation that you had and then you would go back and then look at ways that you could potentially increase the valuation of the company?
Good question. So with us, we one of our first bigger exits was big for me. We merged with another company. We were a couple $100 million in sales. The other company was a couple $100 million in sales. I met a guy at some conference, industry conference, and we said, "Hey, what do you think it would be like if we put our companies together? And if we're going to do that, well, whose company's bigger? Like, what all that? Like, I'm not going to merge and." You're my boss or vice versa. So how can we do it? Well, why don't we do this and simultaneously bring in a private equity partner? So the private equity partner came in and took the majority ownership of both of the combined entity. All happened simultaneously. So we valued each company based upon EBITDA. And so it was clear and we were both reasonably even on that front. So
that was in essence a third party that came in.
Gave us a valuation on the combined entity.
And that was probably better though within the two companies because it was probably difficult for you as one entity and then them as another entity to really come to some form of an agreement. But then that third party, we have a few lawyers in the room as mediators. I'm sure they probably come in as third parties and really help with that process.
Attorneys can help?
Not just attorneys, but I'm just saying as a third party who really helped you guys come together.
I'd say we had a handful of third parties that helped us. Investment banker. So I would suggest if your company is of reasonable size, you might want to consider getting an investment banker, which is kind of like a broker for the deal. And I would suggest getting one that is seasoned in that industry if you can. Somebody who's, in our case, it was security. And so somebody who's done a lot of deals in that space can be a big help. So I think that's one of the first things you do, and that person will lead you to good attorneys, typically, good advisors. And so I think a strong M&A attorney is huge. And then you need to have your books in line from an accounting standpoint. So you need the right accounting team as well, because you're going to end up needing audited financials and so on. So you need to make sure your books are auditable so that you can hand. Typically, the investment banker will run a process, right? So it's basically like putting your house on the market, right? We're running the process, we're on the market, and they'll tell the the potential interested buyers that here it is, but you want to be able to hand them a package, and then they're going to kind of shop that package. And so you want that package to look as good as you can.
Well, I've had a lot of conversations about that. There's the financial books in order, and then there's the team, like what you just said, and then we've got the third-party validator. Now, there was an integration that you just talked about earlier on. What was the post-purchase sale like with the integration?
So again, we put two companies together. I was going to be the president. I was the CEO of my company. The guy that we merged with, he had already built another company and sold it to a public company. So he was 63. I think I was 46 at the time. So he was more seasoned. So he was the CEO and I was the president. And so we put the companies together, we merged it as one. Instead of running it as two separate companies, we merged it together and started taking advantage. He was a lot of brick and mortar. It was this particular one was a distribution company, and we were more like a centralized distribution model where we had phone sales and that kind of thing, and then we shipped stuff. We were basically all video. He was general security products, and so we were reselling those products to alarm dealers and electrical contractors and so on. So we took the best of what we were doing, the best of what he was doing, got rid of our back room, our accounting and so on, utilized his. Yeah. So we lost like 50 people, which is really difficult.
I've got a real question here.
So our sales department stayed, and we helped drive it. Then we went on a roll-up strategy.
Ooh, we'll come back to the roll-up.
Start making acquisitions.
We'll go to the roll-up strategy because that was an exit conversation. But within that, there's emotions involved, and there's ego. Can you share with us a little bit about how to set aside an ego so then you can both be successful?
Yeah, and I think I was thinking my ego was small, willing to defer to this guy, and he's got the experience, and that's how I felt. Groomed me to be the heir apparent. That's what we had told the people that wanted to buy us, and that's how we had pitched it, and all these in our road show, if you will. And then the deal happened, and we pitched it to the industry, and in reality, I wasn't the president. I was the president in name only. So he was out of New York. I'm out of Rockland, here on the West Coast in California. And he had a right-hand person in New York that ended up really taking on the COO role, what I thought I would be doing. And so ultimately, my ambition for helping lead the thing dissipated. So I ended up saying, you know what, I'm going to help through the transition and the integration, and then I'm going to go off and figure out what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. It was very, very difficult for me personally. And I don't know if it's much ego, maybe, but it was more, maybe it's hurt feelings. It was, kind of surprised that it didn't go the way I thought it would be. But in reality, looking back now, the handwriting was on the wall the whole time. I just didn't read the sign.
How would you mitigate that? Obviously, your scenario is different, and everyone's scenarios out there are different within different, negotiations. I would say
if you have a minority share of a business, if you've gone from having a majority share of a business to a minority share, you're not in charge anymore. So, regardless of what your job title is, whether you have investors, private equity in our case, or a CEO in my case, you're not in charge, and so you have to be willing to roll with the punches. And I think you have to be ready to, hopefully, you get enough money off the table or chips off the table where you have the freedom to make the decision like I did to go my own way. We merged another company similarly to this in the security camera space, and we didn't take any chips off the table. It was private equity owned, and we didn't pull any chips off the table. We just decided let's grow it together. And the management of that company, I wasn't part of the management team, it didn't do a very good job. And so the company became worth less. So I lost my control. So, I hadn't taken any chips off the table. So even though I got something out of it that was meaningful, we didn't lead it in the way that I thought they were going to be. So I guess my short answer is, if you're going to take your baby, your life savings or whatever, and hand it to somebody else, get enough off the table so that you de-risk the rest of your life a little bit, so you can still have enough to go on and do other things that are helpful to you and your family.
We're going to roll, and we'll have two things here left. We've got one, the growth strategy through acquisition and your roll-ups. So I want to touch on that, and then we'll see where you're currently at, and then how our community here can help you. So how did that roll-up strategy go? And what are some of the tactics that you utilize to be able to do that?
Yeah, in fairness, I didn't make it through much of that growth strategy. I stayed with my company through the beginning parts of the growth strategy, and it was very effective. Those guys from New York did a hell of a job. They kicked ass, and it ended up becoming the largest security. We're the largest independent security distributor in the country at that time. Now we're the world's largest security distributor in the world. We got bought by a public company, ultimately got by another public company, and I'm not involved. I don't have a stake in it at all. But it was highly effective for the people that, my brothers and sisters that started with me have all done real well. The employees have done real well. It's been really good for a lot of people. And I got out at the time when I quit the company. I negotiated an overall buyout, and so I really wasn't part of the ongoing winning that you guys did. Yeah. And I'm proud of you guys.
Well, and he probably negotiated a good amount too, right? Based on his wise statements today.
It was enough.
Yeah.
It was
enough. I like that. Enough.
Barely enough.
So, we're going to wrap up, but before we do, how can we as a community help you, but also where are you currently focused and what is exciting you right now in your phase of life?
Thank you. Yeah, so I'll start with what's exciting me. Obviously, I've talked to a few people here that are family people. I'm a family man, grandfather of 7. We live on a family compound. We call it Haneyville because it looks like a town. And my 2 kids and my 7 grandkids, we all live out there, and we're building it out to be the most magical place in the world outside Disneyland. So that's where my passion lies when I'm not helping startups. So we started the Growth Factory after doing all the angel investing. Now we're a venture capital company. And so I'm helping early stage companies to grow. We have a fund that we pool money in and make these early stage investments. I'm going to launch our second fund with my team this summer. So I'm looking forward to that. And this is not a solicitation because I think that's maybe not legal. So, but we do have a fund.
We do have a lawyer here, and we are not promoting any type of investments for anyone anywhere.
But I'm also the host of the Mark Haney Show that I've been doing for the last 10 years. I tell the stories or help share the stories of winning in Sacramento entrepreneurs, and we hope to inspire, educate, and connect the community here in Sacramento.
Well, you've certainly done that for me, and hopefully for you guys tonight. Obviously, it was a short little interview today with Mark Haney. And what's a good way to get a hold of you? Do you have an email that we can place in the comments?
You can follow me on Instagram at @themarkhaney, MarkHaney, mark@haneybiz.com. Find me on LinkedIn, whatever.
Well, we certainly appreciate you being here today. And again, thank you so much for all you're doing here in Sacramento.
Nathan Bird, thanks for coming to Sacramento. It's great to have you and your network here launching one of your first little group sessions here in Sacramento.
We're excited about it. I think it's one relationship at a time. That's what we believe in. So anyway, thanks a lot. And until next time.
Thank you.